Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Was beautiful. Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 736. It's November 2nd, 2022. I'm your host, Nick Henderson, and I am joined tonight by Bradley Simons.
Hello.
Just can't muster any more enthusiasm than that.
I feel like our hey guys, you should, if you're listening to this now, make sure you head over to YouTube and check out our pre-show. By the way, I feel like our pre-show has gotten too formal. I feel like we're just doing two podcasts now.
Too formal? It's just
we used to do like questions. 5 podcasts.
Yeah,
that's true.
I suppose that's true. Anyways, Brad's here. Nolan's here as well. Hello, Nolan.
Hey, it's me. I'm Nolan. I'm ready to talk about video games tonight.
See, Brad, why can't you be more like Nolan?
Because I don't care. Hurry up.
Tell us how you really feel. What's up, Crispy?
Hello again.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris Davis.
God, hello. How are you?
Brad, do you want to host this bitch?
Sure. First
Take
game tonight. We're going to talk about...
You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to tell us how your Halloween was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Halloween.
Would you dress your children as, Brad?
But, Henry was a pirate and Griffin was a parrot.
Nice.
I don't know if you remember this. You actually did mention that on the podcast last week, and then
you did.
And then you tried to act like it was going to be a surprise to us.
Were you a ship, Brad? Like
no, the ship. We bought these little facade things you clip onto the side of our wagon, so it was like a ship.
Nice.
But then Griffin just kept pulling them off because he's a dick.
So you were the what is that thing called, Crispy? On the front, like the little mermaid on the front. Was that you, Brad?
Oh, the figurehead?
Yeah, the figurehead.
Is that what that's called? A figurehead?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
It was just a wagon because Griffin kept pulling the sides off and grabbing the buckets and fucking with everything because he's a little punk ass kid.
I think you meant he's a little punk ass parrot.
Parrot, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other heartwarming stories from Halloween? I don't. No,
not that I feel comfortable discussing.
We live in an apartment complex. Okay. They all left. Nope.
I feel like I have the best candy offering in the neighborhood, and nobody knows.
What is it? What's your secret?
Well, so I forgot what day Halloween was because I was going to Halloween parties all weekend. Forgot that it was actually on Monday. Around
Crispy's still living his best life over here.
I'm not.
Halloween parties all
No,
weekend.
I mean they're not like cool Halloween parties anymore. They're lame Halloween parties, and I just no. No, Nick, don't worry, you're not missing much. I forgot it was Halloween. Someone knocked on the door around like 5:30, and me and my roommate both looked at each other like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, because we completely forgot it was Halloween. So we didn't answer the door. And I'm pretty sure that's the only person that even tried all night. We don't have any decorations outside or anything. We barely have a porch light. But I was like, I can't be one of those people that like doesn't make candy available for children on Halloween. That's crazy, right? I'm not that guy. Like, I like Halloween. So I got some candy from my parents and I put it in a bowl, but the bowl was entirely filled with full bars. Entirely. Filled with full bars, and then just a layer of, like, fun-sized candy on top. So if you looked at the bowl, it looked like it was just a bowl of fun-sized candy. But if you go just below that top layer, full bars. And we weren't handing it out or anything. We just set the bowl on our porch. There wasn't even a sign that was like, only take one. Some kid could have come up, taken that whole bowl, and made off like a fucking bandit. And... That could have been their entire Halloween, and they would have done better than their friends. But nobody found it. It's my buried little treasure.
That's depressing, man. Halloween has become. Maybe there are places where it's a lot more. I feel like I just haven't had a good Halloween showing in years.
Well, have y'all Oh, I guess y'all don't really go trick or treating, huh? but
No.
one thing that you run into these days are like, at least in my neighborhood, are like it's just like like families just hanging out. I guess ever since COVID, just hanging out on their driveways. Like
Well,
like
yeah.
barely anyone is like behind a door anymore.
People do
But
not do
like
doors.
there was one like big setup, and I go up there and they're like, all right, so do you want Fireball in your cider or not? And I'm like, huh? he's
Really?
he's giving people, the parents, booze,
Hell yeah.
which I thought was
That guy.
Bernadette and I talked about doing that, like
Yeah.
as like but we're also in a neighborhood and there's a lot of cops, and I don't know if they're gonna be dicks about people with like alcohol and stuff. So we just
guess
did
it
dog
depends on
treats
which
and shit.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Damn, that guy's a hero. Crazy. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Any other exciting shit anybody wants to share?
So I
No?
will say, Crispy, that we were one of those families that was on our driveway, but that's
Oh,
because
they all do it now. Like
well,
if
no,
you're
no,
not
we
out,
didn't plan on it. We were
Yeah.
inside, but the problem is we have a camera points at our driveway, and we just noticed shit tons of kids just walking past our house.
Yeah.
We granted we did not have a giant 12-foot skeleton in the lawn, but we had had this ghost thing and like this little like sign, like one of those old school like you see in movies with like all the signs going different directions. It's like treats
Right.
this way, and
Yeah,
then like
I
a
don't-
like a Halloween wreath on our front door. Like at least 8 or 9 kids just walked past our house. And
I
then
feel
Bernadette
like-
was like, "We have a shit ton of candy. We need to fucking get rid of it." So that's
I
why we
feel
went
like
out to the
there's,
driveway.
like- I feel like it's like a new safety guideline thing or something, because my neighborhood, everyone was out on their driveway, and like kids would skip houses where they weren't just at the driveway.
started with COVID.
You know?
That is great. Like that. You're right. Like,
Well, that's true.
Robin-
I mean, those kids
Robin was
would,
super
like-
super bummed when we weren't getting many kids coming to the door, and we were trying to figure out what are we doing wrong. I know we don't have a bunch of decorations.
It's because it changes the whole like flow of how a trick-or-treater works. You see so many people out, at least, and again, maybe just in our neighborhood, you see so many people out like from afar. You're just sort of like hitting people instead of like inching door by door by door. And because you see so many ahead of time, you know that you can skip houses, like having to waste time going up to houses and knocking on the door looking for
Man.
that porch light or whatever. You just see all these people just out and about, and you're just kind of like moving and heading to those groups.
When I was a kid, like going
we've
up to
brought-
the door was part of the fun.
We've
Yeah.
brought the efficiency and the streamlined nature of corporate capitalism to trick-or-treating.
No, I
You've
like it more like
ruined
this because
Halloween.
it just feels like a block party throughout the whole
Right.
neighborhood. Like it's more sociable. People are just hanging out. I kind of like that.
That's
Like
fair.
like it was
But my
kind of
neighbors-
weird. Like I was more like willing to just chat with these people when they open their door and the transaction begins. It's like it's stranger, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not as
It's like calling someone on the phone these days. It just feels
yeah.
way too forward. It feels way too like invasive.
Feels very uncomfortable.
Like
right?
I'm in my fucking space right now. Like yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me tell you, people with those 12-foot skeletons are so excited to talk about them and how proud they are about their 12.
Dude, there's one guy in my neighborhood that has 3 of them.
They're like $200 a
hoarding.
piece.
Where do you even
Yeah.
put those
I
when
mean, have
you
you
don't
seen
use
one though? Like they seem like they're worth that much.
Yeah.
Damn. Well,
For a lawn ornament that you put out for like 2 or 3 weeks a year.
You just reuse it for other holidays. You put a Santa hat
There's a
on
whole-
it.
There's a whole Facebook community about coming up with ways. Like literally, they make and sell.
We
like,
have to
outfits for
justify
these
this
things.
investment of $200 in a 12-foot
Exactly.
plastic skeleton.
Exactly.
We're going to use
I
it.
shit you not. Monday night, Halloween, right? Midnight. I'm staying up late. I'm playing something, whatever. I go to bed. I go into my kitchen. I'm turning out the lights and everything, getting ready to go to bed. And I turn up the light, and a light catches my eye, and I turn and look, and I'm looking out the little window in my front door, and my neighbor across the street has fucking Christmas lights up, like full blown Christmas lights across the front of their house. I'm like,
disgusting.
And you
What
did not
disgusting.
burn
The
it down
actual-
because...
fuck.
Decisive action. I respect it. He's
Ah.
pushing in. He's pushing in.
What happened
know?
to fall? What happened to fall?
There is
We
no
live in the
fall
South.
anymore.
There's
There
no
is-
such guys. We live in the South. There's no such thing as fall. All right.
There's fall.
He's not wrong.
Get
He's not
over
wrong.
it.
Anyways, Guys, we are here to talk about video
You're,
games.
you're
Let's get
mourning
down-
something you've never experienced, Brad.
It's fucking true.
It's all climate
Anyways,
change's
video
fault.
games. We are here to talk about them. I actually want to start with Crispy tonight because I've been.
Why do you always
No?
do this? Why do you always railroad me? Why do you always send me out to die first? It's like,
No,
let's just talk about whatever game Chris is talking about because nobody cares.
No, because this is the one I care about the most tonight. Honestly, I am
Wow.
still on the fence about this game, and
Crispy,
I'm dying to hear
that's
what you have to say.
And I
about
guess
it.
I should have talked about it last week.
Also,
wasn't
what you
here
said is idiotic. You literally got Chris Davis playing Mountain Blade with your enthusiasm. Okay, so stop.
And I'm
acting
pretty
like you
sure it
can't
No,
works,
no,
right?
I just mean I'm just thinking like purely from a programming point of view. It's like the first game is the one like people are still coming in. Like
Okay, fine.
no one
Fine.
like
You know what?
no.
We've been
We're
live for an hour.
we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about this enough that we have to go. I was just voicing my opinion.
All right, Crispy.
But
Gotham Knights. Is it
We
good or
want
bad?
to talk about Gotham Knights. That is
Mm.
a complicated question.
Word on the street.
I really dislike the conversation around this game because a lot of the opinions I've seen and a lot of the YouTube thumbnails I've seen have been like, why Gotham Knights is a complete failure. Like, where did they go wrong? Blah, blah, blah.
That's some
And,
clickbait
like,
bullshit.
it is. But I think a lot of people were like you, where they just weren't really ready to go into it blind. They wanted to hear somebody say something about it before they made their decision about this game. And everything they've been hearing is, this game is terrible, don't waste your time. That might be good advice. I don't know. It kind of depends on the person, I guess. I would definitely say now that this game is a PS5, which is what I played it on, but it's a PS5 full release title, so it's $70. So
Yeah.
maybe we should be grading these games on a harsher scale because of that. I definitely can understand that argument, but I think just like kind of on its own, the quality of the game, there's a lot of stuff to really like about it, you know? And enough stuff that like I'm kind of surprised by some of the stuff that isn't good that I'm just like, whatever, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think the dialogue and the voice acting is really that good at all, but for some reason I'm still like really invested in these portrayals of these characters. You know what I mean?
So
And-
is that more of a comment on the writing than the acting
I don't
and the
know.
delivery?
I don't know. Maybe
They're more of
it's also like I'm a fan of the series and I'm a fan of the characters. You know, like so maybe I'm just like not really. I don't know, and also maybe I'm such a fan of DC and like Batman stuff that like I will overlook something. I mean, fuck's sake, I watched 2 seasons of The Flash. You know, and that was a
Only 2?
CW show.
Only
Well,
two?
yeah, but they were the 2
Whoa,
good seasons.
Nelly!
And those
feel
seasons are like 35 episodes long, so don't give me this
You're
only
not
2 bullshit. I watched like 4 seasons of Arrow, and that show is really
Crispy, the only reason I said that was because I actually watched more Flash than you did. Apparently, I think I got through season 5 of Flash
Yeah,
before I
but-
put it down.
But apparently, it
Motherfucker,
was
I'm on
never
season
as
12
good.
of Supernatural.
Apparently, it was never as good as season 2. Like, so I mean, that's
You're right. You're right. It never lived up to it, and apparently, it's still going on. I guess.
Wait, which
Yeah.
one? The Flash? Yeah, they're on the last
Flash.
season.
Or the last season, yeah.
I can't even
Um,
imagine watching a single season of any like full broadcast television season.
Well, okay, so I mean,
You mean like seasons that are like 20 episodes long?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just think, like-
26.
I think some of what I liked about the Flash is true of this game, in that like technically its execution could be a lot better, but some of the spirit is there, some of the attitude, some of the vibe that I want from something like this is there, you know? And
Yeah.
and it's interesting characters, it's a pretty interesting storyline, adapted okay. Not really like the grand epic that it was in the comics, but like it's fine. It's good enough. And like the combat is good enough, and like the like customization stuff is good enough, and the traversal is good enough. Like it's a lot of
Wait.
stuff that's like
I feel like I want to engage in this conversation, but everything I know is probably some of the more negative stuff. So when you say that the traversal is good, I've heard nothing but complaints about the traversal. So what? Like it's not fun to get around the city. The
I would
bike is
say
too slow. You know, that sort of crap.
I do
okay.
want to point out that Crispy has historically speaking, as much as he loves Batman, is obviously not shy about voicing his like Batman Arkham Origins has been a real sticking point for him. That's the last.
For sure.
I did not like
Yeah.
I did not like Batman Arkham Origins, and playing this game made me think about why I didn't like Batman Arkham Origins, and we'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. But as far as traversal goes, the best explanation I can give you, Brad, is that traversal is fine until you unlock a certain number of skills, and then for certain characters it gets really good, and then for other characters it gets either not any better at all, or like they're given a traversal skill that is like actively not fun to use. Okay?
So it almost seems like, and because this is a game where you pick a character and you can focus on that one character,
Yeah.
someone
can.
picking one character may have a totally different kind of experience than another player.
The whole thing,
Which-
yeah, the whole thing is designed like you can just stick with a character and run with that. Um, and they do kind of maintain some lateral progression with the other characters. So like if you wanted to switch halfway through, you're like, oh, I really think taking Red Hood on this mission would be a good idea. You're not completely fucked. Like the characters do level concurrently, and the gear kind of stays concurrent, even though it won't be like the best gear if you're not actively crafting. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you can also just stick with one and play that person the entire time. And I have tried to avoid doing that. I've tried to spread out my use of the characters as much as possible. Obviously, in the I don't know, 15, 20 hours I've played, I've kind of gravitated towards some more than others, not least of which because of their traversal abilities, because I actually went through everything you have to do in order to unlock the fourth skill tree on each character, which is the knighthood tree, and that's the tree that gives you that hero's traversal ability. But
Right.
there's like challenges you have to complete on each character in order to get that, and it's kind of a pain in the ass if you're doing all four of them. And if you are playing the game that way, that means you're playing a lot of hours where you don't have those traversal abilities, and getting around the city is a bit more tedious.
So I'm guessing in the footage you're playing Blue Robin or whatever, and he's gliding.
Hang on. No.
This is one of
Hang
the
on.
good traversal
Stop.
abilities.
Stop. Say it right.
I don't know much about Batman.
Say it right. I know you know this character's
one,
name.
Brad. Come on.
Say it right.
I even
Okay.
said it out loud a second ago.
It's Nightwing.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I think as far as the
Blue
traversal
Robin.
powers in the game go, I think Nightwings is the best. Nightwings is the most fun. Ironically, though, we are watching footage of me trying to perform a time trial. I try it twice, fail, and then give up on it because it is actually like really fucking annoying.
I mean,
in
to
these
that
moments
point,
where
Crispy,
it's
sorry
like,
to interrupt you, just real quick. Spider-Man on the PS4 had amazing game. No one will say it's not. Had time trials like this, and they were pretty bad. They had a lot of issues. So I will say that when they try to fill games with stuff like this to make it more gamey, a lot of the times they fail.
the time trials really are kind
That'll
of
come
about
up again.
the time trials really are about like trying to put the movement power through its paces, but like in a way that is way more complicated and just kind of like unnecessary than what you would ever actually be using it for. Again, it's not like trying to teach you anything that's going to carry over into any other part of the game. It's just a little challenge, and as you complete them, you unlock different color patterns for the motorcycle, which is also kind of ironic because I feel like once you get these movement powers,
You'll
the
never use a
motorcycle becomes pretty obsolete. Especially once you unlock all the fast travel points, which is not difficult.
never
Doesn't
use
take
them.
long. Yeah, the fast travel is very snappy. It's like barely any kind of loading whatsoever. It's just like I want to go here, screen, and then boom, it takes you there, right? So there's not really much reason to avoid it, unless you're actively trying to avoid that kind of thing. I think the motorcycle is a fine bit of transportation. I think it handles well. I think it's more responsive than it feels like it should be in the moment, and it took me a second to get used to that.
I mean, the complaints I hear are that it feels like it just goes too slow. Like it just it doesn't feel like a fast piece of machinery.
What is I'm trying to. There's another game that had a motorcycle that kind of felt. It was an open world game where I was like, the motorcycle just. It feels nice, but it also.
I don't know if that's a console thing because I don't know.
I think when that's
frame rate,
happening
whatever,
in an open
but
world game, it's because it's like a world streaming thing, right?
I'm thinking about Death Stranding.
If you're going too fast, it's because
I've never
maybe they can't load the world in fast enough.
I have never felt like that. I've never been playing and like I've used the motorcycle a lot, and I've never been like, I wish this went faster, or like, I mean, maybe it feels like there should be like a boost button and there isn't, but like, it doesn't feel off. It doesn't feel wrong.
2 points about the motorcycle, and I don't. These are just kind of observations. One, do y'all remember what the motorcycle looked and kind of felt like on screen when you were watching The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
Do you remember it feel like, oh, this looks kind of sluggish, or I mean, like, it didn't. It struck me as like, it looks like he's like, why is he going so slow? That's the way I felt about it. Anyways.
I mean, certain
I'm wondering
scenes
if you're
it was
mimicking
like that, yeah. But like, there was also
like, I never felt like he was going
faster.
extraordinarily. I never felt like he was going extraordinarily fast in The Dark Knight, and I'm not sure if this is them like mimicking that feel or whatever that Christopher Nolan created.
No, I don't know. No, I don't.
This is a tech thing.
Yeah.
And two, I'm also thinking about Death Stranding as the motorcycle I was trying to think.
I also don't think it's a thing. Like, I don't think it's a thing. I just don't agree with that at all.
Confirmed, not a thing. Next point.
Do you ride the motorcycle in this footage by chance?
I don't ride it in this footage, but I have used it a lot. But again, like I said, it kind of doesn't matter because after a certain point, you probably just not that inclined to use the motorcycle anymore.
Right.
Because for a long time, it's either the motorcycle or the grappling hook, and that's it. So like, imagine Arkham gameplay where you had the grappling hook, where you would hook onto a point, you'd zip to it, and like while you were zipping, you could maybe hit a button to jump, and that would like launch you over the point and keep you going. But you don't have anything to follow that up with except for either landing or hitting another grapple point. And it feels a little limited just because you're so used to playing Arkham games, I feel like. It's not a terrible way to get around, but it's not that exciting. And the seamless transition though between swinging around on the rooftops and then like hitting the ground and getting on the motorcycle and driving away is kind of cool, and like it I feel like it kind of lends itself to that sort of hero fantasy that the game's going for. I don't know, I enjoyed it. The motorcycle has never been much of an issue of anything to me in this game. Like, it works well enough, it's fun enough to drive, but then like when I got something better, I just forgot about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have a question if you don't mind.
Okay.
So one of the things they don't seem to really talk about in the coverage of this game is that this is not a game that takes place all in one night. But there's not a day-night cycle. It's you switching narrative acts between nights, and so during the night you're doing out and you're going out and beating up bad guys and investigating stuff. In the daytime, supposedly you're doing some like mystery stuff and like problem solving. Like, what is the daytime experience of Gotham Knights?
This is the daytime experience.
It's all in the tower, right?
It's just in the tower. It's just you in the Belfry. And
I don't think you would ever go explore an open world game during the day in a Batman game. At least not. Not yet. Anyways,
it's not even really like problem solving or like gameplay that's happening here. This is just like where you come for a lot of story moments. Like, chapters will begin and end in the Belfry. You'll have to go to the Belfry to start like side investigations. They have like a board that's like your leads or whatever, that early in the game is kind of like, hey, we've got 3 leads, go check them out. I mean, it's not like the board is really like a mechanical thing that you have to interact with. It's just kind of like a presentational, like,
right.
Like, here's the information really plainly for you to take in visually. The other interesting thing about the Belfry is that like any changes you want to make to your character, you have to do at the Belfry. That includes changing armor, changing equipment, changing weapons, and it even includes like if you're out on patrol, you level up and you learn like new blueprints for suits or for weapons, and you craft them while you're out in the world. It'll pop up a menu that says this will be added to your inventory when you return to the Belfry. So you go
You
back
can't
to the
immediately
Belfry.
equip them. Wait,
Right. And whenever you go back to the Belfry, it ends that night, and then it gives you all the statistics of like how many crimes you stopped and like blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Is it? Do you feel like that aspect is like more like for pacing of mechanics, or just like to prevent people from like breaking stuff early?
I don't know, man. I don't really feel like there's much gameplay implication to it at all. I feel like it's largely presentational. What I do like about it, because there's like Mr. Green Toast in chat says, there's no time limit. It's not like you have to finish the story in 30 days or something like that, right?
right.
It's largely presentational. What I like about it is that it kind of determines the ebb and flow of like the side activities and like the free crimes that are out in the city. And it kind of taps into that, like in the Arkham games, they all took place in one night. It's like, this is like one really bad night in Batman's life, that he's like
Right.
dealing with everything in one night. And then at the end of the game, it's morning, right?
Yeah.
This has more of that feel of like what you would get from just kind of more vertical slice, like a Batman story or a Nightwing story, where it's like, nightly patrols are such a like thing for these guys, like that's kind of how they operate, is like, what is Batman doing any given day? Well, he's probably sleeping or working during the day, and then he goes on patrol at night. You know what I mean? So I feel like presentationally it feels like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like the game is about these characters kind of taking stewardship of Gotham City. So it's about like them going out and trying to keep the streets as safe as possible every night, right?
Right.
By following, pursuing their investigations, or just like stopping street crimes or random crimes that pop up. Every time you finish a crime, you get basically what is a currency or like a point system called clues. And when you go back to the tower, it unloads all your clues into new active crimes, right? So basically it says when you leave the tower, like you can look at your map while you're in the tower, and it'll show you like the location of all these crimes that are happening all over the city. And it's like, when you leave the tower, these will be the active crimes that you can go solve.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? You can also find new crimes while you're out in the world by just like, there will be like smaller, like immediate active crimes. If you go to one of those and you find, like, you scan everybody, you'll find somebody who you can interrogate. You beat everybody up, you interrogate that person, they'll tell you about another like actual crime that's going on somewhere in the city, and then it'll be added to your map and you can go do it. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of the ebb and flow of when you're not doing story missions. That's a lot of what you're doing, is these like side crimes and like trying to unlock more of them. A lot of the side investigations and even some story investigations are progressed by like, go solve a number of crimes. It's like if you're doing the Mr. Freeze storyline, there will be a point where it's like, okay, well, we don't know anything, so go find crimes that the regulators, which is his gang, go find crimes that the regulators are committing and interrogate people, and then you can learn more about what Mr. Freeze is up to, right?
And that will kind of let you kind of pursue that thread
Right.
that
And
eventually leads you to
it'll
a
say like,
confrontation
it'll
with-
say go stop 2 regulator crimes, and then you'll get the next piece of this.
So, as a follow-up question, would you say there's been, because I feel like they've shown a lot prior to this game's release in terms of like who you can expect to run. Like, have you had any pleasant surprises of like, because Arkham, I think about Arkham Knight especially, and how frequently I was like, oh shit, like I was running into things that I didn't know were going to be in the game that were like really exciting Easter eggs. Have you had those moments in this game?
I don't know. I don't know who it's like common knowledge is and isn't in the game.
I can tell you a few right now that are big names that are all over the marketing.
Okay.
Clayface, Harley Quinn. I mean, obviously, Mr. Freeze was one of the first ones that they ever showed. The Court of Owls is the main one, right?
Mhm.
Like those are all like exciting things, but like, is that
Penguin.
it, or are there? Oh yeah, I guess Penguin.
There is like one faction of characters that is in the game that I don't think they talked about in the marketing, for kind of obvious reasons. Once you see who they are, you'll be like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know if it was like, I wasn't like, whoa, but it was like, oh yeah, okay. It's people that have been in other Arkham games before. I will say
Gotcha.
that.
I think I know who you're
Are
talking
there
about.
are there like Riddler? Well, I know there's no
No,
Riddler trophies, but is there like an equivalent? Is there
there's a
cool little
couple.
puzzly things?
There's a few that I actually think are really cool activities. First of all, like the kind of just like run around and collect things puzzle are batarangs. Basically, the whole idea is that like Batman scattered batarangs all over the city as training tools for the Robins and Batgirl and stuff. It's like get up
Blue Robin,
here and you
yeah.
get yeah, yeah.
Backpacks.
Yeah, yeah. There's another activity called Wayne Identity Compromised. And
Interesting.
basically it's about, I mean, you know what the story of the game is, right? Like
Yeah, vaguely.
like
Oh, you mean
Batman,
about like
like
Batman being
Batman's
dead?
gone. Batman's dead, right? He's dead.
Yeah.
On vacation.
So Batman is dead. But
He's in upstate Gotham.
one of the activities is you have to plant evidence that gives Bruce Wayne an alibi before people figure out that he was Batman. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So like you end up going around to these different sites that are controlled like by the newspaper or by GCPD, and you have to sneak in to these like really like heavily booby trapped, like tech booby trapped sites, and you have to plant data onto servers. And once you do a whole bunch of those, then basically you've protected Bruce's identity. And like they show a little cutscene of like a video of Bruce Wayne going viral that supposedly took place the same night that Batman was like fighting Riddler or something.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. The other activity. Oh, and then there's another one that's like basically it's just movement. It's kind of like those time trials, but it's just like straight hero movement. It's like Batman left a digital message, you activate it, and then you have to go through this little obstacle course, and if you get to the end, it opens a stash with like mods and rewards and stuff in it that you can complete. And then later on in the game, finding and clearing secret Court of Owls nests becomes an activity. And I mean, those are pretty basic, but they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It sounds like you're getting a pretty good amount of enjoyment out of this game.
I mean, I really like Batman. I really like these characters, so like I'm kind of down for some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like there's some
Yeah.
stuff
You
that
haven't really been describing bullshit. You've been describing a game that
I know,
and you're
but
enjoying.
it is fun and it is really good. The things that I think are legitimately bad about the game, I think the dialogue is not great, and I think the acting of that dialogue is a little stilted. There's a lot of like really weirdly bold choices by the actors in some parts that I'm like okay, I get it. The budget wasn't for this,
It doesn't have any standout performances
right.
like the Arkham games.
Yeah, nobody does. But they're all doing a good enough job of just kind of keeping the ball in the air, and there are like genuine character moments. There are like moments that are really touching and really like a lot of what you're doing in the balcony is kind of like these people like grieving Batman and kind of like getting on with their lives,
Yeah.
And Alfred is there and he's a part of that as well. And that kind of gives, I don't know, there is a nice like family unity to the characters, and I like seeing them interacting together,
Right.
even when the material that they're acting out isn't it's
Is
whatever. It's fine,
hit or miss.
right? Right.
Girl
But
eats a
like
whole pie.
Batgirl eats a whole fucking pie. It's weird. No, like
Is that a thing?
Batgirl has like this little side story thing where it's like Jim Gordon's also dead, by the way. He died before the story even started.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Jim Gordon's gone. So, that leads me to something else I'll talk about. But Jim Gordon's dead, and Batgirl has this thing where like she goes and she looks at this big statue they have of him in a park, right? And she's talking to Renee Montoya, who's a cop who knew Jim Gordon in life, and she's like, "That's not what he looks like." And she starts like getting obsessed about like recreating his last crime and trying to figure it out, the one that he was like killed during or whatever. And she starts having this whole thing where she's like, I don't remember what his face looked like. Every time I try to think of his face, I just think of that statue and I can't remember what his actual face looked like. And that's like really difficult for her because like a big part of her identity is that like she has a photographic memory and is like a genius and stuff. And that's kind of like this,
But she can't remember her dad's face.
right. This kind of like this thing that she's dealing with, right?
It's not a trauma thing. It's more than that. That's what you're saying.
I mean, it kind of is. It kind of is like a trauma thing. They're all like a lot of the side story stuff, a lot of like just them existing in the Belfry stuff is like them kind of like getting over trauma, right? Or them kind of coming together as a family. And some of it's fun and lighthearted, but some of it's also like there's a part where like Jason Todd and fucking no, shut. Oh God, I almost had it, and you said something.
I'm sorry.
Fucking Barbara Gordon.
Okay.
Just stop, Nick.
I'm
Just
sorry.
stop.
I'm trying to help.
And you're hurting. Tim Drake and Barbara Gordon are like playing a Just Dance game, and like he starts having like a PTSD like panic attack, and it like gets really like whoa for a minute, you know, like. So I don't know. There's a human element to the characters, which your mileage may vary. I'm enjoying it.
That was the first thing you said you hated about the game.
Okay, come on, give me a second. The other thing I don't like about this game is just about every boss fight I've done.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. There are 2 boss fights in the Mr. Freeze side story, both of the times you fight him, and they are fucking terrible.
The Mr. Freeze boss fight is like the most famous boss fight in the RPG.
Telling me they have no chill?
Oh
God.
no!
I mean, they are
already doing the ice puns.
Like
they're obviously going for a very different kind of Mr. Freeze than what's in the Arkham games.
I mean, yeah, like one time
you like a bad one is their take.
They're both in these like enclosed round arenas. The problem with them is that like he's just a fucking like he's just a giant sack of HP, and he has a lot of really hard hitting moves, and some of them the only way I figured out how to dodge some of his moves is like I just have to play a certain character. I just have to play as Robin because Robin has a decoy move where he'll target the decoy instead of Robin because I don't know how to get away from his fucking giant ice cannon. It is too much.
You just feel like you're chipping away at his health.
They're not fun, and I was like really trying to figure this out. I was like, why are they like this? And the obvious answer is the one I overlooked. They are obviously like that because it's designed to be a co-op game. If you had 2 or 3 people doing this boss fight together, maybe it would be
like pulling attention away.
Right. Maybe it would feel more like you're doing something, you know?
But it's 2 people. I was so surprised to find out this wasn't a 4-player co-op game.
Yeah, 2 people.
That is weird. That is a bit of strange out.
I mean, I think that's a technology thing. I mean, this was originally going to be a cross-gen game.
Yeah, but also, like, yeah, the like anytime you have to do a boss fight, it's just kind of like the worst thing in the world, and that was a huge part of why I really hated Arkham Origins too. Is like the boss fights.
Arkham Origins had that dope Deathstroke.
Dope Deathstroke fight was my least favorite part of that game. Like I fucking
we can't get into
that.
Origins,
but it was the exact same kind of bad. It was just like it was just really weird. I feel like everything else about their gameplay has gotten better or stayed the same. That's the only thing that
I feel like there's a big question here.
Yeah.
Every single time this game came up in the past year and a half or whatever we've known about it, 2 years. We've technically known about this game for a long time. Chris Davis has always asked the same question. Anytime there was footage, how come he's only fighting 4 dudes? You know, he was obsessed with this idea that Batman, or not Batman, these characters are not fighting enough bad guys.
I think you're obsessed with me asking that question. No, it's a legitimate question, though.
No, I know, but like I'm saying, you asked it so many times. Crispy's playing the game, and you have not asked him the question yet, and I'm curious to hear the answer.
Yeah, you do. You end up fighting more than 4 people at a time. And sometimes those fights get really fucking hectic.
Oh, here's a question. Are there actual people in Gotham?
Yes! That is one thing I really liked about this game, is that Gotham is, like, populated. The crimes that you're doing will be like people getting shaken down by the mob, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna fight the mob, and then they'll be like, oh, thanks, Nightwing, and run away. There are actual cars on the street. Like it feels like a real city. In fact, the whole atmosphere of Gotham City, I feel like, is really good. And people keep showing screenshots of this game and being like, city looks bland. And I just want to scream because I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. If you actually play the game, it is dark. It is kind of dank. It is kind of like, you know, grim, but it's not bland. Like, it is actually really like colorful, and like the lighting is really neat. It just has this like really cool atmosphere. Like, I feel like the city has a good amount of character to it, and
there is perhaps one of the most important factors.
That has been one of my biggest disappointments with Arkham games, is that like it was literally just like you in a war zone of a city with a bunch of thugs and ninjas, and it's like beat the fuck out of everybody. This game is kind of doing like it's like you are a vigilante protecting a city, you know? Like,
yeah,
that's what I love.
What was the excuse in Arkham Knight for there not being anybody in the city? I can't remember.
It was a blizzard.
Nighttime.
It was a blizzard, and
It's
everyone.
nighttime. It's nighttime.
No,
Everybody's inside.
the blizzard was Origins. The excuse in Arkham Knight was that the Scarecrow had planted nerve gas bombs across the city, so they evacuated it.
Obviously.
You're talking too much about a completely unrelated series.
Yeah.
That being said, Arkham Knight is
series.
the most previous Batman game that came out. It is the one everyone is comparing to. So, like, it is a valid topic of discussion.
He's mostly making fun of us for claiming that these two games are not intrinsically linked. I'm pretty sure he's calling us on our bullshit because now we're talking about Arkham.
I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's a weird thing. I do think if this game came out 5 years ago, I think if WB hadn't been in the press so much recently for being just kind of fucking awful, that people might have been a little. And I think if the game wasn't, if it wasn't $70, then I think
it's a big difference though.
People might be
like it's at a 69 on Metacritic, and that's not nice. Like that's like
why does it always come back to that though?
I think I don't know, man.
It's the Gulf. It's the Gulf. Arkham City is a 96 on Metacritic. It is literally one of the highest highest rated video games of all time.
You know what? You know what it
seems like a huge gulf in terms of criticism.
I don't know that this entirely explains it, but I feel like, I mean, just as somebody who is a fan of DC content nowadays, I feel like it is about as bad culture war wise as something like Star Wars. It is like you cannot put out something DC that somebody won't think is like a fucking attack on them.
But critics who are writing like reviews for a professional website or whatever, they're a little different than like, you know, Twitter replies or whatever.
I guess, but like the like
it's not like Star Wars
prevailing
or Andor is not getting
but like the prevailing like sect of DC fandomism that people are like really that seems to be the louder portion of it are like the fucking release the Snyder Cut type people, and critics do not like those people, and they do not like things that would make those people happy. And this game might make people like that happy. Then again, I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe everybody fucking hates this game, and I'm the only one that thinks it's good. I just think
that's not the case. That's not the case.
I just think
even people in our own Discord have been leaning more positive than I was expecting.
You are the only one who thinks the motorcycle goes fast enough. No, though, from what I heard. There are people.
I really want you to try that motorcycle and tell me that you think there's actually a problem with it. I want you to play it. I want you to feel it, and I want you to tell me that you think there's.
Play this game.
Okay, well then shut up about it. Like,
I'm just saying.
I like, or at least don't talk with any authority on it. Like,
I'm just relaying information.
He's just parroting other people's authority.
I know, and we live in a world where like the subjective experience is like more subjective now than it's ever been. Like, I just don't understand the way people engage with anything anymore. So like I can't explain why someone would say something like.
It is weird that like people, I mean, like maybe it's hypocritical for me to say this because we've been doing a podcast now for over 12 years and this is what we do, but like it blows my mind that some people are so obsessed with what other people say or think about a game that like they're willing to just completely give up on the idea of trying it themselves.
Well, I mean,
Eh,
I don't know.
I'm not the Batman guy, anyways. I mean, I'm not basing.
Yeah, but exactly. So, but like, what is
No one else
like?
here
I
played
guess.
it, so I'm just offering
I
what I
guess
heard to
I guess
counter what Crispy said.
I guess my what I think of when you say that then is like, what value does my opinion have? Am I the Batman guy, so I should be the guy that you definitely listen to about
No,
this?
no.
Or
I
is
think
it that I'm the
everybody is a
Batman
Batman
guy, so
guy.
you should not listen to what I have to say about this?
Everybody's
Because
the Batman guy. Everybody loves Batman.
also, look at this. Okay, this right there, I don't know if you can read that on screen, but that is a email from Clark Kent to Dick Grayson where they're just like workshopping owl puns back and forth. So all of this is happening. All this Court of Owls bullshit and like fucking like Bruce Wayne being dead and like these guys fighting tooth and nail for the fate of the city is happening while Superman's just like hanging out somewhere, like making dumb owl jokes with Dick Grayson, which I don't know why, but I fucking love that so much. Like
no,
it's
it's a nice
so
touch.
like it's well, I mean, but that's the first thing that like the first criticism that anybody ever has about like a shared DC world is like, why do these guys do anything when Superman could just come and help them? You know, like this game wouldn't exist if Superman showed up and was just like, oh yeah, I'll help you find all the owl guys. I have X-ray vision. I can see where all their hideouts are. Like, you know, it's fucking stupid. I don't know, but I think Superman's like watching over Bloodhaven while Nightwing is in Gotham, so that's fun. But I don't know.
I just want to point out that's why I mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation, which is like remember, Crispy is being pretty positive with this game, but he was also very negative about Arkham Origins.
I
And
was,
like,
and
so
I don't think this is a
Stop.
perfect game. I don't think this is a good game. I mean, I do think it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game. I
I
think
don't know
it
why
is.
Brad's telling me to stop it when I'm sitting here
No,
trying.
because no. I'm worried. You and Crispy have argued for years about Arkham Origins. I just don't want to make sure that doesn't start
No,
up.
I'm trying to point out that like any concern that one might have that Crispy is going to automatically love anything that has Batman in it is not is just actually not true. That's what that's what I'm trying to point out.
No. I don't.
But like hearing him talk about this with some positivity makes me more interested in trying it myself. And despite the like you put it, the gulf between review scores, like that the gulf between looking at Arkham City and this is like part of the reason why I'm so gung ho about like emphasizing that these are not the same series. It's like we're gonna it's one was inspired by the other, sure, but like why because it doesn't score as high as the other one does this one suddenly have no merit? It just seems
No, that's not the conclusion I drew.
I don't think it's the conclusion you drew. I think it's the conclusion that a lot of what I've read or seen about this game has been that this is just like a total failure, don't bother kind of thing. And I don't know. I think if you really liked the Arkham games, maybe you will like this too.
Also,
I honestly think
it's November. There's gonna be a sale soon.
Also,
Nick,
as much
are
as
you gonna try this game?
Me? Yeah, but I'll probably wait. I mean, right now I'm drowning, so I'll probably
as much
wait
as I hate this fucking time trial and as terribly as I'm doing in it, this flying trapeze thing that you get for Nightwing is really fucking cool. I really, really dig that thing. It is really fun. It doesn't just feel like an airplane. It actually feels like you have to use like your momentum to kind of like lean with it and stuff. Like it's really cool. And the first time I was using it, I was like, man, wouldn't it be sweet if like the next Spider-Man game that Sony did had like they did something like Ultimate Spider-Man where you're splitting your time between Spider-Man and a villain, and if they had the villain be Green Goblin, you could just like fly around on a glider like this. So much fun. So good.
That would be cool.
It's so cool.
Man, that thought just made me really excited. Let's end on a very important question. And I just fucking had the question and I lost it. God damn it! I failed. I fucked up.
Is the question is Batman Gotham Knights better than Bayonetta 3?
Oh, I have no idea.
No,
I have no idea.
We should probably maybe discuss that to figure it out.
I was gonna ask: is Red Hood's fucking
Guns.
Is he circumcised?
are
Oh,
his
sorry, what?
bullets as dumb as they sound?
The
The
I mean-
bullets that don't
non-lethal
kill people?
armor-piercing round.
The
Oh, no,
non-lethal
I mean,
armor-piercing bullets.
Hang on, they're dumb, but they're not like. I mean, look at this. This is fucking dumb. Like, it is about that dumb. Like, it is comic book dumb. It is one of those things where, like, yeah, I don't know. You're
They clearly
there's a
made
point
something-
where he's like rehabilitated himself, and he's like, I'm gonna be a hero, and I'm gonna fight crime, and I'm not gonna kill people, but like, I have to use guns to do it. Like, you were robbing my dude. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. It's
Oh,
really
man.
weird.
I mean, they clearly picked something that was interesting that they
But
considered
that
to be
has nothing to do.
mechanically-
That has nothing to do with this game, and that is 1,000% a Red Hood thing. Like, Red Hood still uses guns in the comics. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, the character's just a fucking weirdo. Like, you know what I mean?
All right, cool. All right, since let's go ahead and transition. Thank you, Crispy. I've been very eager all week to hear you talk about Gotham Knights.
I say pick it up on sale or wait for it to be the free game on PlayStation Plus. When that happens, play it. I think it's good. Like, I think it's really cool.
That is a fine recommendation. Thank you. All right, Brad, since you started your Bayonetta transition and I didn't let you finish it, I'm going to let you go next, and then I'll talk about my game after the break. So
You had to ask about rubber bullets.
I did. Is that where we're assuming those are? Sorry.
Oh, we're already playing
Oh, no, I
Bayonetta
think-
3 footage.
That's how this works.
Stun
Oh.
bullets.
You've
No,
been
it's
playing
not
Bayonetta
usually
3.
how it works. Yeah, well, I just sort of started it because I got it like yesterday or whatever. So
I got mine
haven't
late
been able-
too.
haven't been able to play much, unfortunately, which is kind of disappointing because there's a lot of like weird stuff in this game. Like we Viola is another playable character, but
Right.
since the release, people have found out that there's also Jean chapters, which are like a side-scrolling like Mark of the Ninja style like
What?
levels. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and I really want to try that
Okay.
stuff to like talk about it, but I've only been playing as Bayonetta in the first few chapters. But even then, like it's pretty. Uh, so y'all know I really love Bayonetta, and Bayonetta 2, I was a little like, it's a fine action game, but I was a little disappointed because it seemed like a very like safe entry in the series. Like they sort of like really streamlined all like the weird stuff from the first game that people was maybe memorable, but people got a little frustrated with.
Just stay with your
Bayonetta 2
camera.
was a very
Sorry.
smooth game. Well, it seems like with this one, maybe because it's been in development forever and they just had a lot of time, or maybe they had a lot of leftover like ideas from like Scalebound and whatnot. But there's all that weird shit is sort of back in this game. Like I was actually really surprised by how not just another Bayonetta game this is.
That's
Which
good
is
to
not
hear.
what I was expecting. I mean, I knew about like the monster, like the big what do they call them? She summons the giant demons and then they like fight alongside her, right?
Right.
While she's on the battlefield, like dancing while she's controlling the giant demons, right?
Right.
And like that mechanic is there and it's cool. It seems like developed. I mean, they got some neat ideas. And it's kind of fun to do. I thought it was going to be like really clunky, but they eventually introduced ways to like kind of like link those into like combos and stuff. And there's all kinds of like, cool abilities and stuff. Like monsters will have ways to like, temporarily kill your giant demons and stuff. So you got to like watch for that. And it seems like a fully fleshed out idea. They have their own skill trees and not. And that's really cool. The sense of scale is cool. Every single thing I say here has the caveat of like, man, this sure would be nice if it wasn't stuck on a Switch. And I'm starting to wonder if one of the reasons that this game was in development, it took so long to come out, is I feel like this game and maybe some others like Metroid Prime 4 or whatever, were just in sort of a bit of a holding pattern, waiting for like a Switch Pro to come
More
out.
powerful
But,
hardware.
but then, but then all that stuff happened in the world, and people couldn't make new tech, and they just decided to do an OLED instead. And this feels like a game that would have been like a nice showpiece for a much more powerful Switch. Because let me tell you, the thing about Bayonetta is crazy bombast. Like, I mean, it's the sense of scale. It's just insanity, right? And that is hard to do on such old fucking hardware. My God, it's so hard, and it's frustrating because I feel like I feel this way about Xenoblade games to some extent, where like this would flourish on like really really powerful hardware, right? Like it feels like the games are designed for powerful hardware, not designed for the hardware that it's on, and that's frustrating to me. Um, because there are some like really wild ideas here that are a little too big for the system, and
Where does that rear its head the most? Like, is it
well, I mean,
what's
so like
paying the price
when you're
here?
fighting giant enemies along with your giant, demon, um, uh, I forget what they call them,
Kaiju?
giant. They're not kaiju.
Summon.
Um, Yeah, yeah. Bayonetta's always had demons, but now they're actually on the battlefield. So they're on the battlefield. You're fighting giant enemies. Bayonetta's on the battlefield. Enemies are attacking her. Enemies are attacking your demons. There's just so much going on, especially when you're playing in handheld mode. It's just like, what the fuck? I've had to play this on a TV with a pro controller for the most part, just because one thing, this type of game, you want the controls to be good, so you want that pro controller. But yeah, just being able to see what the fuck is going on is tough. And issues
Have
I
you
did
played
not
any
have
of
were
this in handheld? Out of
yeah,
curiosity?
I have for sure. It's just it's not the first two games didn't have this issue. The game doesn't run well in a lot of situations because it's a Switch game and it's doing so much, and it doesn't look great because of that, and that's frustrating for a Bayonetta game. But
Right.
like I think Platinum knew all this and they said, but we don't care anyways. We're still going to make this game ridiculous and crazy and over the top, even if the system can't handle it. And I guess that's nice in some ways because maybe this game will eventually, come to another platform, or, maybe there will eventually be more powerful Nintendo hardware that this game will run on natively and it'll just run a lot nicer, like a Switch Pro or a Switch 2, right? Like that's inevitable. And that'll be
For
great when that
sure.
finally happens. Um,
It looks
but
cool.
again, I'm surprised by like how much not just another Bayonetta game it is. Like it's not just another safe entry. That's cool. Like I'm surprised the levels are all kind of like open now, and there's things to explore and find and stuff to do, like little like things to collect and like one-off little like puzzles and platforming challenges, and you're exploring. And I never really explored really in a Bayonetta level. I mean, they've sort of dabbled with that stuff here and there. I mean, ever since the beginning, I mean, ever since the first Devil May Cry, you've always had those secret challenge rooms that you were looking for. But that's just one of many things you're looking for in any given Bayonetta level now. I was really shocked by that because I don't know. I feel like that didn't really get as much talk. And now I'm playing this game and I'm like, wow, this is a very different. You can see like the stuff that they experimented with in like Astral Chain or maybe like even Near or whatever, a more open-ended experience, and that's kind of cool
Right.
for Bayonetta. It's less linear, but it still has those like crazy set PC moments where like cities are falling apart and you're running along buildings and stuff, but that
It
might
is
just take
funny.
you to like the next open area.
uh,
But
It is funny how when I'm not playing Bayonetta, I forget just how kind of flashy and just kind of gorgeous it is, like animations wise, and just like the way she moves and the way you interact
yeah,
with the environments and the enemies. Like it looks so cool.
she looks great. It's just, a lot of the world and some of the enemies just look really bad in this game.
Bland.
I mean, like I think there's some really bad like art choices with the enemy designs,
I
and
was
and
noticing that
and,
shit in the
and
first trailer we saw for this game, though.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and those trailers didn't make the game look great, honestly. Um, and but it's funny because one of the things you can find while you'll find like hidden missions, or they're like hidden fights that are like angel verses or whatever, and all of a sudden, like in it, like the look of everything is like Bayonetta 1 all of a sudden. And
Hmm.
enemies from Bayonetta 1 drop in, and you're literally fighting the angel enemies from Bayonetta 1. These are like secret fights you can find like throughout the levels and stuff, and you actually earn halos for like completing those fights. And it all it did is remind me that the enemy design in Bayonetta 1 is so much better than these neon dorks or whatever you're fighting in this one, goo monsters. It's uh, it is what it is. But again, at the end of the day, like Bayonetta is like, it's a fun it's a fun character to control, and the combat's good when you can follow it. And I'm enjoying myself. Less so on my lunch break when I was playing in handheld mode, but um, you know, I feel like there's a lot more to say, but I'm only, a few
Well,
hours
I'm gonna
in,
play it
and
too, and
this
you're
shit's
gonna
gonna
keep
get
playing it.
crazy.
So,
And
well,
Viola is like this whole other character who's based more on counters than dodging like Bayonetta. And I don't know. I'm excited to continue. Despite the fact that, like, I think the game is kind of ugly, and I wish it was on a more powerful system.
it's so weird because
Uh,
I do think it's like a situation where the environment and the world you're in, at least in the stuff that I've seen, is kind of ugly. But like, the, I do like the character designs. I do like,
of
just
course,
maybe
yeah,
to a less extent, or to maybe more extent than Brad. I like the enemy designs. But it's so weird because it's all juxtaposed, and I think a lot of it has to do with the animations too. It's all juxtaposed against something that looks kind of just dull and gray and flat. In this game in particular, so I'm hoping I'm hoping there's some environments later on in this game that are like brighter and more visually appealing, I guess.
yeah.
But
Even
we'll find
here,
out.
like the first, couple of levels didn't really look like this. But yeah, I think you're gonna see like this sort of like fucked up cityscape a lot. Maybe at least we saw that in the
Gonzo Lude in
promotional
chat
stuff.
does point out that the environments look very similar to Nier Automata, and one, Nier Automata was on more powerful hardware. Two, I think it fit Nier Automata, like the subject matter of that game more. Like it didn't. It felt beautiful, I think, in Nier. Here, it feels dull against because Bayonetta is just such a bombastic, like
Yeah,
vivid character.
this is an apocalyptic like setting. Like basically the multiverse is colliding or whatever because it's a 2022 and everything has to be about the multiverse. But the cool thing is Viola is like Trunks. Like that the start of
Oh,
the story was like a Bayonetta in some other like dimension or whatever dying, and them sending Viola like Trunks style to like the one version that's still left or whatever to save the last Bayonetta or some shit, or to like help warn her or whatever.
that's pretty cool.
And Trunks is cool. She even has a
Yeah,
sword. Yeah.
nice.
So
All right,
yeah, I need to play
cool.
more. I don't know who else here is gonna play it. Nick, you have a
I
copy,
got
but
my
you're
copy
probably not
like
gonna
two
play
days ago.
anytime
I just
soon.
gotta. I mean, maybe there's a couple things I want to try and get through, and like maybe when I finish a Plague Tale, I'll jump into this.
Yeah, I
Um,
just need more weapons, more crazy stuff before I can, I guess, dive a little deeper. But I'm
cool.
enjoying what I'm playing so far for sure.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it more on a future show. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about Signalis a little bit. I know Chris Davis played that Resident Evil DLC. Got a few quick news topics to mention. Nothing super crazy. And then, of course, we will wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. So if you're watching us live or listening at home, don't go anywhere. We will return after a short break. We're back. Welcome back to the show. Video games. We're here to talk about them. I want to talk about a little game that's been, quite honestly, one of my most anticipated games of the year for a little while here. Signalis dropped this week. Um, it's on Game Pass, but I'm not playing it on Game Pass. I'm playing it on my Steam Deck, and it's fantastic. This, you may recognize this game. It was part of the Steam. They released a demo for it a while back as part of one of those Steam Next. I think it was Steam Next Fest. Yeah, it's like this is. We talked about this briefly in the pre-show. We did the community question about remakes versus love letters and stuff and all that nonsense. But uh, so it does seem cliche to call this game a love letter to classic Resident Evil or Silent Hill, but it kind of is. Like it definitely, it's a game that mimics the kind of isometric or somewhat top-down perspective of those of some of those classic games, and it uses a very, 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 very familiar inventory system from Resident Evil, you have like the 6 boxes. You can only carry 6 items at once, so you have to manage your stuff, and you have to put what you can't carry in item boxes, and then pick them up. And so you're doing a lot of inventory management and stuff, and it's very puzzle heavy. But the kind of like the kicker of this, like the thing that makes it interesting, is that it is a totally
It's
different.
sexy as fuck. Come on, Nick.
It is. Wait,
It's
are you
sexy.
are you being sarcastic, or are you being serious? Is that how you feel about it?
No, I don't think you should bury the lead here. I think by far the most like exciting part about this game is just how sexy it looks in the style. Like this is a very, very nice looking game.
It is.
And
Yeah, it has a very, very, very,
all-encompassing.
very. It has a very, very, very well thought out, carefully constructed, beautiful
Wait a minute.
aesthetic.
I thought you
Yes.
hated sexy looking games.
What? I just talked
Well,
about Bayonetta.
You always talk about how indie games that look nice suck.
I don't think that's his point. I think
don't
I
think
think
that's
Brad's
what I
point
said.
is that like he just laughs because like, oh, what, you're telling me there's an indie game with a really beautiful art style? Like those are a dime a dozen these days.
Yes,
Um,
yes, that is true. Like
which is
indie
a
games
good
are very
problem
beautiful.
to have. It's
Yeah,
a good
so-
problem to have.
what they say.
It's just this is also a game that looks beautiful and also plays very, very, very well so far. It's actually been a silky smooth experience for me so far. But like I said, the thing that kind of makes it special, aside from the visuals, the very, very striking, very well thought out visual style, is that it's also science fiction. So it's like playing Resident Evil, but it's like it's. I'm trying to think of what I would compare it to in terms of like the setup is like Earth has sent these ships out to the corners, far reaches of the galaxy to find new planets and new solar systems and stuff, so they can find new resources and livable planets and stuff like that. But they send these ships out with two. As far as I'm still trying to kind of piece it together because it's kind of cryptic, but it's like they send each ship has 2 people, what they call a gestalt and a replicant at the head of the
That's
ship,
some
and then
shit.
and then they have a crew of what seem to be like android or robotic helpers that kind of, and those robotic helpers are kind of what make up the enemies in this game. This is a survival horror game at its core. It also has, like, when you go into cutscenes, it's very anime. So like the characters look very anime. I mean, I don't think you're going to see it in this footage because I don't think I watch a cutscene in this footage. But it's science fiction anime, but it also feels very like Alien, like, you know, Alien the movie, kind of in terms of its setup and its pacing and its story and everything. But all of that is layered on top of this just like really, really well articulated traditional survival horror game. So, but one thing I was really surprised about in this game, because the pacing is quite a bit slower, but it's all about exploring this ship. You're trying to figure out, because you arrived in this colony on this planet, or I guess your ship crash landed. I think you wake up at the beginning. You were in cryo sleep, whatever. You wake up, everybody's dead, and you kind of wander into this colony, and you're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, and weird shit's happening. Everybody's dead. All of the cybernetic helpers on the ship are now like violent and hostile towards you. They're basically zombies. What this game has that I just discovered before recording this footage and talking about it on the show is it has fucking crimson heads in it. Enemies don't die permanently. You kill them, they fall over on the ground, and keep in mind, this is a game like Resident Evil where ammo is very, very precious, so you have to really be careful about, or you're going to run out of ways to defend yourself. All the enemies, they fall where you kill them, and if you come back through that room or that hall certain number of times, there's always a chance they're going to spring back to life. But you have a way of burning the bodies, so it's very Resident Evil 1 Remake, which is a thing that I've been like, that is one of the main reasons the original Resident Evil 1 Remake is on my top 10 games of all time list. I thought that whole system was absolutely brilliant. I was like, of course they're going to copy that in like every subsequent Resident Evil game, and they've never done it again, which is bizarre to me, even
They
from
did
a
it
lore
once,
perspective.
and it wasn't good.
Where?
Operation Raccoon City.
Oh, that's weird. It's
They
weird.
sort of
It's like,
did it in Evil Within.
I was like, imagine Resident Evil 2 remake with Crimson Heads. Like, but just like it seems like a no-brainer. This is like the first game I've seen kind of mimic that idea.
Wait,
Um,
are they just coming back, or are they coming back more dangerous?
they're just. It seems to me like they're just coming back, but I could be wrong. I've only had it happen a couple times. Also, enemies like new enemies can like so like you're on this. You're in this colony, right? And the floor is made up of like tiles, like little square tiles. You'll be walking around, all of a sudden, a new enemy might just just like lift up one of the tiles and crawl into the room with you, and all of a sudden, there's an enemy that was never there before. So you have to be careful of finding new enemies, and you have to be careful of enemies that you've already killed. So sometimes it's like thinking about, okay, well, I need to navigate the space. What's the best way I can get to this room I want to go to without maybe passing too many bodies? And I will say this, it's not necessarily on the same level as Crimson Heads because Crimson Heads were absolutely fucking horrifying. That shit was terrifying, and it's still scary to this day. I can play this game in bed with my Steam Deck without worry about like screaming or freaking out or anything. Like it's
This
kind
game's
of
not very scary.
it's a chill experience. It's not super scary, but the atmosphere is so good. Oh my god, I love the atmosphere in this game. The sound design's on point. Like this is also like one of those things that's kind of like it reminds me of Alien Isolation and how it mimicked like the soundscape of the original Alien film and like how everything had a very particular identifiable sound. Like it's very similar to that kind of like low tech soundscape, but it's also its own thing. It's not just taking sound samples from like Alien or anything. Like it's somehow captured that same vibe. So like every time you turn on a computer or every time you interface with something or you go into like the save menu or whatever, it has like a very just really iconic sound effect that it's hard to describe, but like it's so good. This game, top to bottom, so good. Puzzles, really, really challenging. Um, I've had to bust out a notepad a few times and like write stuff down, and like you're constantly like going back through your notes trying to find references to things and numbers. You have like a radio that you have to dial. Like if you tune into frequencies, you might pick up radio signals that have like numbers that you can then use to like decipher puzzles and stuff. So like there's a so far there seems to be a lot of different layers to this, and it's just
Every
it's
little
so satisfying.
UI detail and like everything looks so good in this game.
It's so good. And it just you know
It's
the
like these
cherry on
X-rays,
top
I'm just
is
like my mind's blown. I wonder why they didn't do like more cinematic camera angles, because obviously the games that it's a love letter to uh aren't isometric games. I mean, they're those cinematic camera angle games, right?
well. I think they wanted.
So
I think they wanted there to be breathing room. I think they wanted this to be its own thing, and they don't want it to be so carbon
sure.
copy. It definitely gives it its own identity. Also, this has like such a like it's not so uncommon these days. Like I think Resident Evil 2 remake had an amazing, very very helpful map, but like the map that you use in this is so it pulls up so quickly and it keeps little notes whenever you find something that you like that is obviously important that you don't have what you need to open or unlock or figure out. It marks it on the map, so you always kind of know what you've done, what you haven't done, and I don't know, man. It's just
I definitely
fucking
want to try it.
solid.
I definitely want to try it.
Fucking solid.
I think Crispy got my willingness to play indie games that look like complete dog shit confused with like somehow turned around to me not wanting to play pretty indie games. I still like to play
I only
nice
got
looking indie games.
confused. I only got confused because that's what you said.
What are you talking about?
Got him. I don't know, guys.
I'm just not. Something has to be more than pretty to me.
Oh,
But this does
Ooh.
the gameplay for this and whatnot. I also like a good classic Resident Evil style game.
If you've ever played like a traditional survival horror game and been like, yes, I like this. This game is absolutely something you shouldn't miss.
Crispy, go watch a trailer so you can see some of these like other scenes and stuff too. Like this thing, top to bottom, looks just gorgeous.
And everything
Okay.
feels super snappy, like just the way you
Okay.
interface with the menus. It's nice. It's nice.
I'm
It's
just a
good,
little
guys.
concerned about the
Mhm.
6 item limit thing, honestly.
I'm wondering if that increases with like
It
depending on
doesn't.
what difficulty you choose. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I'll tell you. that's kind of a non-issue because item boxes in this game, it's kind of like Resident Evil 0 where you drop it in an item box, and if you go to another item box, it's there. You know, it's not like locked to, or was that the opposite in Resident Evil 0?
Every Resident, 0 was the one that didn't do that.
Okay,
Zero, you drop
all
them on
the
the
other
ground.
ones did. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a universal item box, but it's the whole thing of like I need these 2 items to complete this puzzle, and this slot's taken up ammo.
But it does
and
kind of
then
make it does
I
kind of
can't
make
pick
pushing
something up.
it kind of makes pushing forward in this game a puzzle in and of itself because you have to just be like, okay, what do I think I need
Okay.
right now?
Yeah, I know. I played a classic RE game. I get it.
It's
but
so good. It's so
this
good.
seems like maybe even more limited.
It's so good.
Oh.
I mean, Resident Evil. If you depending on which character you picked in Resident Evil 1, you had 6.
You could expand it, right?
I don't know. I have not reached a point where I can expand my inventory. I'm wondering if those kinds of
No,
upgrades.
I hear you can't in this game because I've
You
heard
can't.
impressions
So,
from people.
I mean,
who
I will say,
completed
like, you find things in the environment that you can equip as like sub items. So, like, the first one you get is like a limited use like stun baton. So, like, you can quickly, if you get overwhelmed by an enemy, you can quickly like electrocute them and then knock them down and then stomp them to death. But like one of the other ones that I just got today was I opened a safe and found this like eye module because I think you are kind of like cybernetic to some extent. So you can, it's like an implant or a modification like Deus Ex. You can put this fucking eye in, and then it has 6 slots of photo memory. So if you see something that you think will help you in a puzzle, you can trigger it and then take a snapshot with your eye, and then when you come across it later, you can hit it again and then view your saved photos that you've taken.
Print screen, but yeah.
Or take or up until that point, I was taking pictures of stuff with my phone on the screen.
Oh,
so like it's just I don't know. It's cool, man. And like there's a lot of thought that like some of these puzzles are like real. I was like, oh my god, these are pretty obtuse, but I like it. It's making me think. I don't know. It's good, guys. It's fucking good. That's all I got to say. Signalis. Boomer horror. It's great. Go for it. It's on Game Pass if you don't want to pay real dollar bills for it, but
Did you
I mean, you're kind of paying dollar bills,
by the way.
Yeah, I fight like 2 or 3 things. I mean, it's slower. It's like Resident Evil 1 where you spend a lot of time wandering around the mansion and you may only hit like two or three zombies, but like the rest of the time is puzzles and back and forth. It's got that classic pacing. Anyways, speaking of Resident Evil, I don't know, Chris Davis, were you gonna mention the Resident Evil Village DLC tonight?
Yeah, I'm not saying that I felt guilted into talking about it, but I feel like since I'm the only one who's played it so far, I think it does deserve some coverage.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Should I play this? That's all I want to know. You seem unsure.
Did you
I
really
feel
like
bad
Village?
Yeah, of course. It was on my top 10.
You'll probably like
Wait a second. Brad, I want to know what that head shake was
Just
for.
keep going, Chris Davis.
Chris Davis asked me if I like Resident Evil Village, and Brad's shaking his head.
He loves Village. Keep going, Chris Davis.
This is Brad trying to call me out for not putting it higher on my list or like lower on my list. Is that what's happening here?
Shit, it wasn't even on my list.
This is third person, man. What the fuck's this?
Okay. So the Winter's expansion for Resident Evil Village, which came out last Friday, is 3 parts. It is a third-person mode for the main campaign. It is extra content for the Mercenaries mode, and then it's this standalone DLC epilogue for the Village story.
Is that really all you would call it as an epilogue? Because that feels very brief.
That's the way I would kind of describe it. It directly plays into the epilogue of Village. It's just you're playing like a couple hours before that happens, basically. You're playing as Rosemary Winters, Ethan's daughter. She's 16 now.
Wait. How does that work? If you're playing as her when she's 16, how are you playing it just hours? You said hours.
Well, I'm getting to that.
This don't make no sense.
Time travel.
No, it's not time travel. It's something slightly dumber. The entire conceit of this epilogue is that it's right before that final scene in Village with Rosemary at the grave, and it's her going into a dream sequence in the remains of the Megamycete giant thing that was recovered from the remains of Village. It's you going in there and you trying to find a way for Rose to suppress the powers that she had received from the Mycete.
God, Resident Evil Village got dumb.
Oh yeah, it did get dumb,
like real dumb.
And this remains dumb.
Volcano plane crash.
It's approaching volcano plane crash dumb. Yes.
No, it's way dumber than that. What is wrong with you?
I don't think it's volcano plane crash dumb, but it's its own class of stupidity. Anyway, the whole conceit of it is that Rose goes into a psychic connection with this remains of the parasite, and within it are the minds and memories of several of the characters that were present in Village, the ones that were the bosses, basically. And it's a generated scenario that has a whole story behind it, in which Rose is diving deeper into the mindset of what remains of the parasite to find a symbolic crystal that, when she activates it, will remove her powers from her and turn her into a normal human being.
Does she have like a different mechanical conceit, or does it just play like more Resident Evil Village?
She has mechanical conceit. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, I've got a UI thing there. That's a display of her power. She has the ability in this content to project a psychic attack on an enemy to stun or damage them. It's very context sensitive, and it grows over time. But you start the content out, and you are in memory, a altered memory of the castle sequence. You run into, not to put too fine a point on it, you run into clones of yourself, other Rosemarys, who are being actively hunted like pawns by a sadistic version of the Duke, the merchant from RE8.
This is the weirdest shit I have ever heard.
It's fucking
Brad,
weird.
I take it back. This is way dumber.
Then a plane crashing into a mountain.
Yeah.
Volcano.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. Complete global saturation.
Volcanoes exist.
So did you
finish this DLC?
Yes, I did. I finished it on the stream. It was about 4 to 5 hours of content. Probably would have been shorter if I would have done a few things and made some more conscious decisions. So the thing that kind of frustrated me about this game is that I played through Village about 5 times through that campaign, including on Shadows mode, including getting like a 2-hour run out of playing through that. I had a lot of fun playing it. But one of the things I think Capcom overlooked was that just because it is in the game doesn't mean that there's also fundamentally different mechanics in there. So I had naturally, from my old saves, had all the tutorials turned off. And because I had that turned off, and I didn't realize
about new shit?
It wasn't telling me properly about new shit because I turned the tutorials off for the main campaign, that carried over to this content. So I kind of had to learn stuff on the fly, and I missed out on complete and total mechanics for later parts of that game. So if you're going to play this, turn the tutorials back on, first off.
It's 4 to 5 hours of art, okay? I don't like that word content. It's disgusting.
It's not art, it's content, man. I don't mean to sound derogatory about this, but this feels very much rehashed for most of this stuff. It's basically the same level design. It's alternate zombie enemies.
Reused assets.
Yeah, it's a lot of reused content. And even some fucking boss fights from the main campaign are in this as major pivotal events, and they feel less interesting because you are less powerful. And the game, because I didn't have tutorials, it was less informative for me as to how to actually play those boss fights as this new character.
Did you eventually figure that shit out? Like, did you eventually?
No, I found out about this stuff after I'd ended the stream. and that was very annoying. And
Damn, that's like the Ripper mode thing, but as if but you never figured it out, even at the end.
It's pretty
That's
much
crazy.
exactly that, yes. But then Ripper mode would only have to be applicable for like the final boss fight of the game, if that makes sense to you.
Third
So-
person looks pretty not great. Also,
So the front, it's a 3-act structure. The first act in the castle, I think, is just kind of a rehash of more like Resident Evil 2 remake kind of gameplay with lumbering zombies, stumbling through the mansion, solving very basic puzzles, and feeling pretty weak.
Still, maybe one of the best parts of Village. Although the factory is pretty good. You go back to the factory.
No, the third act of the game is just kind of like a narrative exposition, in which you have one boss fight and you really don't do all that much other than the boss fight. It's remember how like Village was like they threw in all the major lore and connections to 7 in like the last 20-30 minutes of the game.
I do recall. Yes.
Basically, the same thing happens here.
I have a question. Capcom has been leading up to this expansion, this DLC, and talking about it like it's this huge deal. Like they even dedicated huge portions of their like showcases to this DLC. And I get it. At some point, you have to market it, right? But like,
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
but-
that
but
it's more
sharing
marketing
this,
than
like,
anything else
having-
because the narrative aspect of this game has basically no consequence on the Resident Evil franchise as a whole.
it just seems like
this-
it's silly to have this occupy the same space as like Resident Evil 4 remake. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
these are not on the same level.
yeah,
but
no,
they're almost treating it like they were.
They were, yeah. But so okay, so the front half, not that good. Back half or the back third, not that good. The middle section is where this content shines.
There's that word again.
I will not spoil for you what happens in the middle of this DLC, but the middle act is
I heard scary.
actually
scary.
quite good. Has some very smart mechanics, especially one from an indie game we played years ago that I remember fondly. That had a great horror mechanic, and fleshes
You
it
gotta at least
out
tell us
into
what game
an
that
hour
was.
or two long
Or that-
thing.
Or would that give it away if you told us what game it was?
No, just tell us, because no one's gonna buy this unless you entice them.
I can't tell you the title because I don't remember it, but I just remember the mechanic.
Oh.
I can tell you what the mechanic is.
Oh, I know what it is. It's the you gotta keep looking at the thing that's following you.
It's a Weeping Angels thing, but
The
it's
SCP.
yeah,
Like
kind
Doctor
of
Who?
like that. But
That's
it's
pretty
smartly done. But that aspect of it is really cool because
And
SCP.
brief.
I won't tell you
SCP,
what the
that's
enemy
the
is,
indie game.
but you can hear the enemy coming when they're out of sight, and they don't
pretty cool.
snap to you. You hear them coming after you, and when they finally get back into view, when they can see you, they freeze, and it's really good. So one of my early complaints about the DLC was that you know how one of the lamented things about it was that okay, they're adding a third person mode to Resident Evil 8 and Ethan is just such a know nothing character that they wouldn't even bother showing his face. So people were like, "Oh, third person view, I could turn the camera to see him." Nope. Well, in this the camera just turns at a certain angle to reflect where the character's looking at a certain point. So you never actually see Rose's face or Ethan's face.
I've seen her face in cutscenes and shit.
Yeah, you've seen things in cutscenes. Yeah, but hang on, I'm getting to it. So that whole mechanic is what you experience with the first act of the game, and you really don't think much of it. You know, you think that just might just be like a pivot in how they're going to handle the camera in Resident Evil 4 remake. Turns out that's actually a specific mechanic tied into this encounter in the second act of the game with these enemies that are stalking you.
Okay.
It's I will not tell you what happens in that second act, but
Please
it's
don't.
really good. I entirely endorse it. It is a great way of looking back at certain segments of Resident Evil 8 and saying, we can do this again, but we can do this much better.
Okay.
So, other than that,
What?
I mean, overall, it's I don't want to say it's a shit sandwich, but it's got really bad
you're going
pieces
to
of bread
anyway.
on either end that are kind of moldy, but in it has a really good filling.
Like a really good pastrami.
Really
Man,
good
there's this fucking
pastrami
word.
with like moldy ass bread. It's
Delicious.
yeah.
Wouldn't a shit sandwich go the other way?
I mean, yeah, theoretically yes, but I
You're-
couldn't think of another way
Yeah,
to put
usually it's not the bread that's the problem, it's what's in between the bread.
it. Yeah.
Anyways, all
Like,
right, cool.
it's okay. This is all sorts of okay. I don't think it's worth $20. If you didn't buy Village at launch and you buy the gold edition, I think it's a better value. But for what's here, if you're only interested in this DLC, dude, wait for a sale. Just wait for a
Don't
sale,
do
man.
it. All right, good to know. Good to know. So the other game that you've been planning, you said you wanted to do a quick mention. You've kind of let yourself get swept up into Mountain
Are
Blade.
you lying? Is it going to be a quick mention?
Hey, look, it depends on you and Brad. It really depends on you and Brad because
I want to say. Go.
oh my god. Okay, look,
You're on the clock.
I started this at Sunday at like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and
This
I
being
have
Mountain
put
Blade 2
31
Bannerlord.
hours into it since
What
then.
the wait, since Sunday?
Since Sunday, I have put in 31 hours, and my
They do be
life
like that.
now
Has there
revolves
even
around
been
Mountain
31
Blade.
hours?
It's a pretty chill game. Like, you can really just turn your brain off and run for a long time without doing much.
Wow.
I mean, not like that. I mean, like this is a game that I've been playing at the end of the day and just kind of like really vibing out to. Like, there's a lot of just like
That's totally understandable.
hours of just like looking at menus and clicking around and not even like doing actual combat and just like kind of
I spent a lot of time just managing my merchant caravans and whatnot.
Yes,
merchant caravans.
This
Oh,
is
what a
one of those
nerd.
games with a lot of numbers and spreadsheets and figuring out things and building your character in a very slow grind. But once it starts rewarding you, it cascades and you're getting better and better and better. And suddenly you're going from like this nomad wandering
And
throughout
suddenly
this warring empire to joining a clan, and then the clan goes to war and you do really well in the war and you take ownership of a castle, and then they go to war with another nation and you take another castle, and then you take another town and you grow your village and you're building out your merchants and you're building out your companions, sending them out on quests and building out your family and
Clan.
having children. And
Clan
God.
is just the clan is the word that the savage people use for kingdoms.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
I have this game
I didn't think
is
Crusaders, I thought you hated fantasy.
What weapon do you use?
This game is not very fantastical. It is very
No, there's no
like
fantasy at all.
yeah, it's very
zero
very
fantasy.
historical,
Yeah.
medieval.
it's
like,
medieval
yeah.
fantasy, like with,
It's not-
with no
There's
mysticism.
no fantasy. It's medieval
Historic
history.
fiction,
Yeah, historic
Of
fiction,
a
but there's
fake
no
world.
fantasy.
but it's not a fantasy world. Don't call it a fantasy world just because it doesn't exist.
There ain't no
The
orcs and
past
elves.
isn't fantasy.
But if my build right now, I run a scimitar and a bow and arrow switch out. But I also sometimes run a good spear because it has a really nice swiping attack when I'm riding along on a horse in the middle of a battle.
Are you one of the Stygians?
Stygians? No, I'm the Genghis Khan people.
Oh, yeah.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, nothing. I just
He's judging you.
And
just.
at least I'm not a basic bitch ass
They're-
Varandian.
They're supposed to be the best at horse archery, and horse archery in general is supposed to be really strong.
Horses can't use bows
but-
and arrows.
I know, right? That's bullshit.
That's the
But
fancy aspect.
They have hooves.
I think we've mostly wiped them out in my world. So
Well, I
right,
am slowly
nerds.
making my way west. So
I
I now own 2 towns and 3 castles at this point. My blade is sweeping across the continent, and it is seeing no mercy. So
All right. You're a
Yeah.
nerd.
it's
31 hours. That's bananas.
it's
It's
only
a really
going to
cool
grow.
game. You should try it out, Nick.
Stop
Shut up,
it.
Crispy.
Stop it. I wasn't here on the podcast when you
No,
were trying to
it's
get Nick to play it.
fun.
Nick is not going to play Bannerlord.
He
and
might.
he should not be playing
He
Nick-
might.
Nick,
Nick,
This is
remember
reverse-
that? Remember
this is
the
reverse
Battle of the
psychology shit.
Bastard? Remember the
No,
battle?
it's not.
of the Bastard?
I'm telling you, this is not reverse psychology. This is not for you, Nick.
It's
Look,
for you,
But
Nick.
how do I know that's not just your reverse psychology bullshit that you're
Nick,
saying?
This is it. This is the beginning of your like Nick. You are entering middle age. Like at a certain point, you are going to become very interested in medieval warfare. This is it. This is your
That is part of getting older, Nick.
it
like,
is. Yeah.
like this is. It's time to put away childish things like your Resident Evils and your Dead Spaces or whatever, and it's time to pick up a man's game. You're a man
I
grown.
can't believe Crispy just said I was approaching middle age.
You're a man
Start watching
grown.
anime.
now.
I think I just felt my midlife crisis begin. Like just
That's it.
snap into place right there.
Coaching.
All right. Okay, we need to move on. Nolan, I know you didn't really have anything on the dock. Is there anything you wanted to throw out today before we move on, or?
Not in particular. I mean, I had mentioned in our Discord earlier, discord.gg/4Player, that all I've really been playing the past week is some more Bones Cafe. I talked about it last week. I'm still enjoying it. It's getting more and more complex by the day. And then the last week's footage, I was having minions do like two or three things, but now they're doing like dozens of things. It's getting very complex. But the problem with that is it just means it takes a long time to set up a level. But it's still, enjoyable at the end of the day. So I'm still playing that one.
Cool beans. Quick update for me too. I guess I'm still playing A Plague Tale, Requiem. Still very good. I'm on chapter 10 right now. I think I see what Chris Davis was talking about with the game opening up a bit. Game's pretty fucking good, man, and it's got some characters of the year. Faux show. So good.
You haven't even gotten to the thing.
I haven't gotten to the thing yet, but
Two rat tornadoes.
Oh God. 2 rat tornadoes, 3 rat popes. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that story is
3 rat
stellar.
popes. You can't have 3 rat popes.
You can.
Maybe a rat pope and
Be a
couple
little bit
of
more
rat
open-minded,
tornadoes or
Brad.
something.
I want to know what it is about this game that's making Chris Davis try so fucking hard to start a rat meme in the Discord.
I know. Hey, Chris Davis, you changed your name to.
I
in
didn't
Discord
change
to the
it.
rat-
Jaeger changed it, and I didn't change
Oh.
it back.
Okay, I was about to say he changed his name in Discord to the little rat emoji or whatever. And every
He
time I try
got
to
a
go
little
tag-
upset because I was just happening to stop by the Final Fantasy 14 channel, maybe posting a little rat emote every now and then. Just saying hi, dropping in, seeing what's
Yeah,
going
you're
on.
just going around the fucking server posting pictures of rats.
Yeah.
Just
and,
the emote.
There's
I'm only
no
doing
way
the emote.
this game is that good. I get that you guys like it. It might even be a good game. Maybe it shows up on some top 10 lists, but
I'm
like,
with Crispy.
stop fucking pulling my leg here. Like,
I'm with Crispy.
First of all, no. Chris Davis is the only one overselling this game.
I'm not overselling it all.
Here,
I am speaking the 100% the praises of this game.
I'm
there's a
saying-
lot
I'm
of
saying-
rat
And
conversations.
we all
going
know that can't be true.
I'm strictly just trying to point out that I think this game is very, very well made. It tells a very good story so far with great characters so far, and it is very polished, very well made, very fun. I'm enjoying the shit out of it. It absolutely deserves to be on some top 10 lists, I think. But it's also not revolutionary. I'm not gonna, but Chris Davis might tell you that it is.
You're not going to change your name to Rat?
I'm not
I
going to
think-
change. This is what I was trying to say. Chris Davis's name is now Rat in Discord. So every time I try to go tag him to tell him something, I'm like, "Where is Chris Davis?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh wait, I have to type a rat emoji in
It's
to
not
find
even-
him
yeah.
in my own goddamn Discord."
His name isn't even Rat. It
I
is
think
just
the only
a
solution
picture
is
of a
we go
rat.
into the rat channel and everyone posts sexy pictures of rats.
No,
sexy
they
rat
like
art.
that. They like it. Like,
I want to see
The-
rat
the
people
fucking-
making out with other rat people.
the
and
fucking
maybe
rat Nazi game that's coming out that has the horny rat lady on it. They're all into it. They all love it. Like,
There's a rat Nazi.
the rat shit is degeneracy. Like,
Well, why are there so many horny games that are also Nazi games? I don't get it.
because
I don't-
fascism, that's how they bring you in, is with the horny.
With the horny.
That's how they
Okay.
get you.
All right, guys. We need to wrap up pretty quick here. There was a couple news topics I just wanted to briefly mention. I don't know how much we have to say about it.
Well-
I wanted to mention that an era came to an end this week. Nibellion left Twitter and the industry, and I don't know how I'm going to get my news anymore.
Dude, that's
I don't know.
From Wario
Guys,
64.
I'm only half serious, but it's
his
like
goodbye post was really like, I can tell I'm not wanted around here. Like, it was kind of fucking sad.
I mean, honestly, it's this is gonna sound bad. I'm not trying for it to sound bad. I've been there, right? I've been where he's at. I mean, not on the same scale. He's obviously like at this point he was an institution in this industry. I feel like I got 90% of my news from him. It was all he just aggregated it all into one really well, easily digestible place. And it's gonna be deeply missed. But I've been there, right? Like we as a podcast started out at a certain level, right? And as Twitch became more prominent and everything, and like our community has shrunk. I love our community as small and modest as it is now. But it seems like he kind of like he felt some of that like, oh God, they don't want me here. And then just
what are you talking about? I thought it because he
That's
wasn't
not what
making
happened.
enough money.
No, what he was saying was specifically like, I realize now that people were into the news and the content I was providing them, and that like I add nothing to it, so there's no reason for anyone to support me. Like it was
Patreon wasn't doing so hot,
his Patreon, like, I guess fell flat on its face.
But we
He
don't
had like a whole bunch of cancellations, and a bunch of the people who were around for the first month didn't stick around for any more.
Also, this 110% had also something to do with the Elon Musk acquisition too. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like it was just a perfect storm. The point is, Nibellion, you'll be missed. I'm speaking for myself. I think I'm gonna miss having him. I mean, he made a good point about making a differentiation between his content and him as a content creator, quote unquote, if that's even what you want to call him. But still, he added a lot to this industry. I'm sad. But you're right. Wario 64 also does a lot for us as well. But I feel like I would be equally as bummed if he suddenly announced that he was leaving. But yeah, it kind of sucks. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and maybe Chris Davis has more. This happened, I think, today, and I wasn't paying super close attention, too busy. But Sony dropped the PlayStation VR 2 details. It's coming out in February for like $549.99. Is that correct?
Woof!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a game tie-in, by the way. That's just the hardware.
Yeah. But they also dropped like a list of like, what is it, 8 or 10 games or something that are coming out at launch. But like, what about Horizon Call of the Mountain? Where is that? That's
a launch game. So there's gonna be 20 games at launch. That's the one that has a bundle with the PSVR 2, which raises the price up to $600.
Wait, what's the? I'm sorry. What's the price of the headset?
$549.99.
$550.
Holy shit!
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
it's a whole. It's
Is
basically
it better?
you're buying. I mean, yeah, of course, it's better than the PlayStation VR.
Better.
But at the same time,
I think
like,
there's it's 4K and stuff like that. So they're saying like all the stuff that it can do, blah blah blah.
But it's
and whatever.
But it's also a different ecosystem from the PSVR 1 because there's no backwards compatibility.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Well, I think the reason for that is because they're trying to move away from the camera requirement. Right. And so since all of the previous games were designed with, hey, we're looking at something in front of us and seeing what it does, versus this is designed with there's cameras on the device, so you don't have to have that camera. To try to translate that, I can understand from a development perspective why that's basically impossible. You have to, it's not, we talked about earlier, like remake of games. You would literally have to recreate every single PSVR game in order to make them compatible.
There are VR headsets that use a camera and some that don't, with games that play on both, right?
Yeah, like
I don't know.
The Quest 2, I think, does that.
Does what?
I'm sorry.
I mean, the point is,
I understand that it doesn't have a camera, but I'm saying the game was not designed with the fact that it's trying to track a physical headset versus trying to track the environment. Like I said, there's two
Yes.
different things going on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely not as simple as, it's not backwards compatible and fuck them. But at the same time, it is 500. It's like basically you're buying a second PS5 at that point. And I was a big proponent of VR when the first PSVR came out. I still consider myself to be, but none of the games that they showed for this thing right out of the gate seemed like system sellers for me. I do want to play Call of the Mountain. I do want to play that Walking Dead Saints and Sinners 2.
Well, there was a game announced today for it that's supposed to be a launch game that is right up your alley.
You're not talking about the fucking
Supermassive
Dark.
is putting out
Yeah.
another spiritual successor to Rush of Blood called Switchback.
I think you missed the.
Rush of Blood.
Is it a follow up to Rush of Blood? Because we do love Rush of Blood.
It
in
is
this household.
100% a spiritual successor to that.
Okay,
It's just
that's
it's
cool.
that, but everything but that name.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll check that out. I'm just like, I think you missed the part where I didn't play or particularly care for any of the last few Supermassive.
I would say just get a Quest 2, but Facebook sucks and now it costs too much. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Also,
we'll probably
there is the expectation that in the next several weeks we're probably going to get a announcement about Team Asobe's next game, which is probably going to be a Astrobot technology demonstrator.
that's gonna make me
get my
sad.
attention. That right there.
Sad.
That right there will be the thing.
Because
that would be the one.
was so good.
Dude, Astrobot was Game of the Year material, and it was technically a tech demo. Actually, both Astrobot games that came out were tech demos.
Robot Rescue is not a
they're
tech
fully
demo. That's a full game.
They're fully fledged games, but they are designed with the sole purpose of demonstrating the technology that you're playing with. But still, they were top 10 material. They were, they're Game of the Year material all the way. Like, they're fantastic. That could be a system seller for me. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's wrap up the show, guys. It is time. I gotta edit this bitch tonight, so let's do it. 4-player minute.
The PS5 one was more of a tech demo, but the one on PS4 is I think it's up there with any game that came out that year.
No, I do too. It was on my top 10. 100%. All right. 4-player minute. Hype, sweat, thank you, fuck you, any combination,
That's
final
not
thought, whatever the fuck you want to do.
Time.
Stop it. It's our final thought.
I'm not policing it anymore. Y'all fuckers just do what you want.
It's our so bad quick.
We are all comfortable with final thought.
All right. Final thought, Brad. Hit us.
My final thought is just more sad news, and I guess, what that means. It was announced, we didn't cover it in news, I guess we could have, but Embracer, the giant conglomerate corporation, whatever, that's buying up all these video game studios and properties and whatnot, they shut down Square Enix Montreal, specifically the studio responsible for Hitman Go, Lara Croft Go, those really sick mobile games. And the reason I want to bring it up is because they had also they shut them down 2 weeks after that studio had a whole rebranding, a new name and everything, and then they shut down that studio. And I just sort of, I guess, wanted to remind everyone that these companies buying up all these smaller companies, I think we get excited when that happens sometimes because they have a new owner, think of all the possibilities we can get, Red Faction Go now, or whatever the fuck, right? That shit happens all the time, but then time ticks on and all of a sudden they start shutting down these studios when they realize they have to make all this money back. And when it's not happening, this sort of shit happens. And that's why mergers are scary. And I don't know, it's just sad and frustrating. And we're finally seeing Embracer in the news separately from they bought something and now they shut something down that they bought. And we're probably going to see more and more of that. And that's sad and frustrating, especially once, because I thought that studio made really great fucking games. Some of the best mobile games I've ever played, honestly. And it's sad. So fuck, all that mergers, Embracer, and all that crap. Because, yeah, damn it.
Yep.
That's all.
All right, cool.
It doesn't help that they hadn't put out a solo title in nearly 6 years, and the project that they had been announced to be working on was a mobile adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which, unless you're making a Pokemon Go clone these days, nobody wants to fund it. So
I didn't know they were making that. All right, Chris Davis, you're next since you started talking already.
okay. My final thought is just reiterating what I said earlier tonight. Mountain Blade 2 has taken over my life. It's all I can think about. I was playing it as soon as I got home from work. I think I might play it after we get done with the podcast. And I will play it probably all day tomorrow because I'm working from home. My problem is that this weekend I'm going away to see my grandparents for a few days, and I will be away from my computer. And it has been a very long time since I've had that kind of that addiction
separation anxiety.
Shock. Yeah, the DTs, if you will, of just like quitting cold turkey and having to wait several days before I can play it again.
I do feel a little bad for you, Chris Davis, because I know while Mountain Blade is not technically fantasy, a lot of like the mod support is like fantasy stuff, and I know that's not your shit. But maybe they'll get some good spy stuff. Probably not. What else do you like? There was a Star Wars mod for Mountain Blade, so
there was the problem with Mountain Blade is that it scratches the exact same itch that Sid Meier's Civilization does. In which it's just one more turn. Oh, it's one more run I can make of this errand, one more quest I can do, one more town I can conquer, one more village I can raise. Oh my God, it's 4:00 in the morning and I haven't eaten in 14 hours. What is happening to me?
Let me tell you, I have been playing Mountain Blade for hours every night, listening to A Song of Ice and Fire audiobooks, and just losing time, just like losing it. It's insane.
I'm doing something similar. I'm playing, and in the background, I have Critical Role podcasts playing while I'm just fighting off hordes of Landians and stuff like that.
Critical Role, you are a fantasy nerd. See, look at you.
I don't know.
He's a
fantasy nerd. Chris Davis exposed. All right. Anything else to add, Chris Davis? Is that your?
Is it a bad thing for me to really be thinking about putting this on my game of the year?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Why the game is hit 1.0 this year. Why would you not consider it?
I think you're a bad person if you have a game of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's true.
At least somebody said it.
That's certainly a new take. All right. Nolan, you're next.
So lately, I've had no urges to play new games. I've just kind of been in this mood that like everything new that's coming out, I'm like, I would rather just play The Binding of Isaac or nothing about doing another XCOM run through. And just one of the, I don't know. There's just.
Did you ever play War of the Chosen?
Are you gonna play God of War?
I will probably play God of War for sure.
Okay.
That's one that. Yes, I will play that one. But basically, coming to the rest of the year,
Monster Train's right there,
dude. Yeah, that's a dangerous one. That's a dangerous one for I have so far not. I've stopped myself from installing that on my Steam Deck because I know if I do, it will be very dangerous.
Yeah, I feel it.
But yeah, for me, it's just more of like, I don't know. For some reason, I've been enjoying old games.
You man. That's all that matters. Whatever you enjoy, go for it. I mean, honestly, right now, if you happen to be one of those people who are everything is like really speaking to you, which is kind of how I feel right now, it's like a curse. So,
for sure.
All right, Crispy, final thoughts?
Oh, I don't know. I started playing Marvel Snap today.
Oh,
and that's no, because I find it odd. I find it to be a very weird game, and I guess the game itself isn't that weird to me. What's weird is that like this is the one that like even people who don't play game, like my roommates coming up to me and being like, "Yo, somebody said this Marvel Snap thing was really cool. Have you tried it?"
It's
Like
it's the quick
everyone is
matches.
fucking playing. Yeah, I mean that is the biggest selling point is that like a match is 2 minutes. Like
Yeah.
you're done, you're in and out. But a match is 2 minutes because it's not much of a fucking game. There's not a lot going on. The first like this does not remind me of Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering or anything. The closest card game it reminds me of is like Gwent, and even Gwent now I feel like has more complexity than this. This feels
That-
like this feels like auto chess or like
That's what I was gonna say, Crispy. Is for
Auto
all
chess.
for what it is, it's pretty simple. Like
yeah.
there's not that much going on.
And it's so
I
much
don't know if
more
it gets
about
more
like
complicated later on.
well, yeah, and you know, I'm still really early on, so like everybody I'm playing against has the same fucking cards. It's like I don't even know how big the card pool is. I don't think it's that big because they're still like in their first like preseason or whatever. I don't know, but um
Yeah, but do you have any
it's weird.
3D cards?
I do. I have one because they make you make one as part of the
Yeah, they
tutorial.
do.
But yeah, that like I don't know, man. I play Magic the Gathering Arena a lot, and I kind of go through it in waves, and like there's a lot of criticism to be said about that game and like its monetization practices and all that. But at the end of the day, at least it's a fucking game, you know. At least I'm like sitting down playing Magic the Gathering. With this, it's like I don't even know like it's fun. It like the crazy thing is like I don't hate it. When I'm playing it, I'm sitting there playing it. I'll play 2 or 3 matches, and it's kind of fun. I haven't lost one yet, which I think is really weird. Um, I just don't understand why this is the one that's like breaking through. It seems
Do you think
really
your comic
odd.
book knowledge is why you haven't lost a match?
Shut the fuck up, Brad. That's such a
Yeah,
dumb Brad.
Why
yeah.
do you
My
do
my
this?
like the strat. Like, oh, one of the spaces is the Baxter Building. I better put my thing or my Mister Fantastic on that space because that would be comic accurate. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. This game is
Well, I'm just saying, there's a correlation there. You haven't
maybe
lost. You're a comic book guy.
maybe I don't
Can,
know. It's
can
weird.
may I ask a legitimate question?
I guess.
No.
I don't know if this is a meme or not, and I'd like for your confirmation. I have seen images of an Uncle Ben card that says discard and you receive Spider-Man.
I don't know.
I
I
doubt
don't know,
it's true.
but that is the kind of
Well,
mechanic
the
that
reason. Sorry,
no
let
no,
me.
but
The
that is the
reason
kind of mechanic that's in the game. Like you can
you
like
can't discard cards though, can you?
I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't think you can.
But you're not discarding them as part of like there is things where like you know because it's a mobile game. There are mechanics where it's like this
Green
wouldn't
Tip
work.
says it's real.
This
Oh my
wouldn't work in
God.
a paper card game. So like like for instance, in the starter deck, you get a Quicksilver card. And that card's power is that it always begins the game in your hand. There's a Sentinel card, which the power of that card is every time you play Sentinel, it puts another copy of a Sentinel in your hand, you know? So that whole Uncle Ben, like switch out Uncle Ben for you know, they try to keep the powers thematic with the characters. You know, so like for instance, Hawkeye on his own, not very good, but his power is if you play more heroes on his space in the next turn, he gets more powerful. You know, because he's like always with the Avengers or whatever. You know, I don't fucking know.
If it
It's
was
all
But
about
like
Magic the Gathering,
synergies.
if it was
like
Magic the Gathering,
Nightcrawler has an ability where you can move him to a different space once per game. Like, you know, it's
that's cool.
yeah, I mean
If it was Magic the Gathering, it would be send Uncle Ben to the graveyard.
The
destroy
card
Uncle
specifically
Ben.
says when this card is destroyed, add Spider-Man to your hand.
It would say sacrifice Uncle Ben.
That's clever. I think that's clever. Whatever.
They actually the send this to the graveyard, that's more Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think Magic the Gathering's used that terminology. Like they still call their just card pile a graveyard, but they haven't
Okay.
used that wording for
Have you seen the dudes on TikTok that play Yu-Gi-Oh with the arm things? Like,
Oh yes, I have.
I've seen the
person
ones
in-
that do like they're playing fake games, like they're not playing real.
No, they play Yu-Gi-Oh and they're like, I play my trap card, and then they're like slotting it into these arm things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, the
pretty
dual
dope.
discs.
Yeah, I know nothing about
I feel like it's
Yu-Gi-Oh,
such a
but I can
fine,
watch
with
those
Brad.
guys
It's
play.
with Brad. It's such a fine line between something being dope and something being dumb as hell. I can never tell.
It's a weird
This
game,
is
and
this is why we have different tastes, because you don't see how those can be the same thing.
I
Fair
don't.
enough.
It's a weird game. I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing it. Also, Kuze suck. Vlandians rule.
Fucking
There we go.
Fuck you, Chris
bullshit.
Davis.
Fuck
Okay.
you. How dare you?
All right, calm down, everybody. Calm down.
I don't even
I still have
remember
to go.
who I joined in my game.
My final thought. My final thought starts now. Release dates. We got some big important release dates, at least for me, anyways. Today, Atomic Heart is now officially a real video game that's coming out on February 21st, 2023. I'm still like, whether that game is amazing or just a complete like bait and switch, I don't fucking know. But God, I am so excited to find out, and the fact that it has a release date has me very, very, very excited. So yeah, February 21st for that, and then Naughty Dog dropped the release date for the premiere date for The Last of Us on HBO, and it's way sooner than I was expecting. They keep saying 2023. I very much assumed that meant it could be like winter of 2023, but nope, January 15th.
I thought like March or April is what I was thinking, but
Yeah, I was like it's gonna be like mid, like, you know, I certainly didn't think 15 days into the year. Like, that's crazy. I'm so excited. So yeah, that's super hype. Other two quick thoughts. Somebody in chat asked if Nolan had tried that Ghostbusters 4-player, the Spirits Unleashed thing, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, that seems like a no-brainer for a co-op night for us to do. Like, why have we not?
for sure.
We should plan that. Like, next time we're going to do a co-op night, we should try that fucking Ghostbusters. That keeps coming up in conversation. I keep hearing people say it's actually pretty good. And I don't know, we should do it. It's 4-player co-op. Why the fuck not?
I'm into it. I really want to try it, but I also want an excuse to try it.
All right, there you go. That's the excuse. And my other final thought is, I've talked about this on Twitter before this week, obviously, if you've been paying attention. I'm just excited, so I figured I'd share. I finally got a tattoo on Sunday. I've been wanting one for like literally over a decade and just never known what I was going to get. And conversation came up when I was on vacation, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. And I made it happen. And now my leg itches like a motherfucker.
Your leg and not your lower back. Okay.
Not my lower back. Who cares if I got a lower back tattoo? Chris Davis, what's wrong with a lower back tattoo? But man, yeah, I'm just getting to the stage of like, okay, it's starting to itch, and I'm like, this is just beginning. This is gonna suck.
You keep talking about this tattoo and you don't say what it is.
I mean, it's on my Twitter. If you want to know what it is, it's on my Twitter. It's a Dexter tattoo.
Okay,
but
I don't know what I expected.
I went to. Oh yeah, Brad didn't really give me a very good signal.
If he's out, I'm out too. I gotta go.
No, don't do that to me. Sorry, I went through like the whole. I always thought to myself, when I get a tattoo, it's going to be something super simple and just like, okay, I like that design, put that. But like, I decided to go with the whole like, do the whole experience, like, have ideas, talk to an artist, come up with a design, like an original design, and find something that really speaks to you and that you like, and do it. And man, I'm very happy I did it. It was cool. It was a really cool experience. It's knocked off my bucket list. So I've just been very, very excited to talk about that.
That deer is carrying a knife, and that is very unsafe.
The deer is carrying a knife. Yes, that is exactly what it is.
I will say, I will say, I was worried you were gonna go for something really fucking basic. What you ended up with is a very nice piece.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I always think back to when you showed your first your tattoo on your calf there, Crispy, and I remember being like, "That's really fucking cool." And I've always been kind of nervous about it.
You went for it. You got a real ass tattoo your first time out. That's cool.
Yeah, I went for it. So yeah. Anyways, that's it. That's my final thought. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. If you're watching us live, thank you for listening at home. If that's what you do, we appreciate your support and your listenership. If you want to find all of our old episodes, go to 4playernetwork.com. If you want to be a part of our community where we talk about all kinds of things, you can go to discord.gg/4player. It's absolutely free, and we'd love to have you. You can support us on Patreon if you want to financially at patreon.com/4player. And yeah, we'll be back to our usual Thursday schedule next week. And I imagine we'll probably do a multiplayer night one of these weeks coming up here. I'm not sure which one, but we'll let everybody know. In the meantime, guys, be safe out there. Play video games. Be good to each other. Go vote if you haven't already. Make sure you do that. Can't stress that enough.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Good night.